Oh, no, yes,
Senor
Senor Tomas.
It's for Spanish.
Spanish. Okay.
Okay.
Good evening. So we're going to start our Student Achievement Committee meeting for the month of October. We have three main agenda items: the continuous improvement update, a little update on our Merton Science Curriculum Committee, and then where we are with Act 20. So a lot of that will come from today. For next month, we will have our DPI district and school report cards released by our next meeting. So we'll have that, and we'll give you a little bit of an update of where we are with our district calendar. Waiting on Arrowhead, and I think we will be waiting on Arrowhead for a while, but we are doing some work and we'll share that at that time. I am not anticipating a December Student Achievement Committee meeting need. There's such a small, with a week off at Thanksgiving and 2 weeks at Christmas, we don't have a lot of time for a ton of action. So I don't think I'll have to ask you guys to find some time in December. All right, so on to our continuous improvement update. What I do like to do is just kind of remind for Patrick, our newest board member on the committee, and kind of where we were. In July 2024, the board did approve our strategic plan, which at that time only included a draft of a one-year actual action plan. So what we have done now the second year, and I believe Dr. Russ gave an update of the strategic plan implementation, but we did develop one for this year in the same areas as last year because the strategic plan is for 5 years. And you're going to notice we continue to kind of color code for you for our updates where we're at. So green, means that it's complete. We're done. Very few things are actually complete this time of year. Most of it is like full school year work. So you'll see a lot of yellow, which a lot of yellow means that are in progress. You'll see some that are blank because they might be a task orientated. We haven't started yet, but we're not anticipating a problem. And if they're red, it's behind schedule. Maria does not like red. Last year we did have a red. We actually put a hold on our 4K curriculum review, just based off of the level of lift on our implementation and some work on the state level. So, and we're doing it this year. But we don't have any red this year so far, and we're not anticipating any of that. So I'm just going to kind of, I'm not going to go over line by line, but I'm going to briefly kind of talk about the categories. So this is available for public view, of course. So our first experience pillar is student experience. We have two objectives in that one: academic growth for all kids and enhancing personal growth through Merton values. So you're going to kind of see in this first action area, a lot of things are well on their way to getting complete. So we have started our 4K curriculum renewal design process. We've begun our science. We are implementing some grading practices a little different here at the intermediate school. We're still working through some of them, but the main thing that we implemented this year is we aligned our grading scale to arrowheads. We really didn't like the fact and got a lot of positive feedback from our staff, especially from staff who was here a long time, that we used to be aligned. And then they made some changes at Arrowhead and we never aligned, and then they made changes again. So it was a good opportunity. So our kids can get used to what an A at Merton means here is what an A at Arrowhead would mean for them. So that's the main one that we're doing. That's in progress. Of course, we're having the first reporting period on it. So that'll turn green once we get there. And then, of course, we're really looking at, as often as possible, our open life source educational resources. And we're finding quite a lot for the Merton Values Committee. I know I shared that last month, but actually on our science adoption, one of the top rated programs is an open educational resource. But just kind of like Eureka was, vendors have kind of made it teacher guides so you don't have to send so much out to printing and organizing and the student materials instead of printing and books and organization. So even those are, but what's nice about buying those is they tend to be cheaper because there is no development cost on those. So those are usually funded by grants, and that's how they can be offered. So we continue to work on that. Haven't started yet. Ron and I have continued to talk about it. The one white here at the bottom is we're really looking at enhancing and making our summer school curriculum a little better. We tend to get new teachers or fresh teachers coming out of that or not Merton teachers. So we really want to get some higher quality materials for summer school. And we do have in Act 20 actually a requirement beginning in 2027 for kids that have personal reading plans to be in summer school and an offering. So we are going to look at something more robust. Ron and I are working on that on a budgetary perspective because, of course, and hopefully look at it this June, depending on where our budget lands, or have some training for this June and additional resources the following June. So we'll have to see where that's going, but we just started talking about that, but I haven't done a ton of work.
Or what I would say is we have a conversation with a family and say, hey, your child's moved in time. We would like that to be part of the summer school program, and particularly enroll in math classes, literacy class. The last 3 years now, we have not had enough participation. So we have had that for, and we think of credit recovery type of a scenario. So we're looking to bring that back a little bit, particularly with that.
So it's happening for summer.
It's more like some reading fun, we still have reading and math classes, but it could be somewhere around the math 8 or reading, certain types of literature.
We might swap.
With swap.
So do we also offer, we can ask for a students that they have?
Correct, yeah, it's all.
I don't know. We haven't talked to Swallow if they, if for their personal reading plans, if our summer school is going to meet their requirement. I think that's a good conversation.
It's has gone way to offer, it would be 5 or 6 ratio of the 5 or 6, and then ultimately we can find staff today. So we're going to take a look at it. So
Act 20 then requires if they accept the reading program that we have materials for them, is that the
Act 20 is offering it at summer school. We can't require anybody to come, but we need to offer it. And for me, if I'm going to offer something, it's going to be, I want it to be better than just, a little bit more. What do I want to say? There's no, like, if a kid's struggling in reading, we'd want to do some best practices and intervention type of thing. And that's not what our summer school is. Right? It's kind of more fun reading type activities, and we'll want to put a little bit more instruction in there. In the second action plan, support systems, we've got some greens. We're implementing a new specially designed reading interventionist position, working on that. And what's come out of that actually is a lot more working on co-teaching, actually. So in minutes. So we're exploring that a little bit more because the person we brought has quite a skill set for that. And then, of course, we're updating our district dashboard with our subgroups. And then we had trained all our staff in the beginning of the year with Tammy Gibbons from OSSOF for professional learning communities, and that continues to work with that. So feel really good about where we are in this action step. No, with this this reading position, if the board maybe would remember, we brought it in to take some minutes of the specially designed reading instruction off of our special educators with a dual certified staff member. So that staff member has a reading license and is licensed as a special educator. what we're finding is it's great that she can provide those minutes, but she really has some great ideas of what can happen in the classroom to reinforce that with those kids that she's working on, so that she's kind of working with the classroom teacher and their case manager at getting into practice. So yeah, we've got some nice, exciting baby steps actually in that work, and I think it'll be really great for our kids. Um, so, this next action plan is really around learning environments, huge training, a lot for our principals this summer. They had small teams that we got training on behavior academies. It's actually a way of when students are struggling in a certain area where we do some intense work with them in this behavior academy and have it really keep track of how it's implementing in the regular education environment. And this isn't just for students that might be identified with some learning needs. Steve is actually going to talk about what they're doing with their behavior academy here at the intermediate school as principal updates. So, kind of nice when you see some learning and we're applying it and people left. I mean, they gave up June days to come and get the training, and they were really excited about implementing the work. So, that's a great thing. And then this last professional development day on Thursday, we did kind of do a bunch more on executive functioning strategies, and we are going to continue to build that. Probably in another 2-3 months, I'll share some really nice intervention updates that we have going on in the district related to not just executive functioning and literacy and math, but how we're trying to better support all of our learners with their variety of needs.
Are those suggestions for teachers, or are those something that we're measuring to see? Is it an expectation that that's what?
Are you talking about like our professional development slides? Actually, what we created besides that training, we actually are creating if-then documents for all of our staff in executive functioning, literacy, and math, because we're getting feedback from, it's great that you tell me to look at this book, but our teachers are busy. Like, I need a lesson. I need a lesson. That's what they told us. Math or reading, I need a lesson in executive functioning. I need a checklist. I need something. I can't create everything. So that's actually what we're pushing out more, Rebecca, besides the training, is the if-then document, which talks a lot about what are some accommodations we could do for all kids, what are some instructional things that we can do either whole class, if that is, or with individual students within the classroom. And that's how those documents are divided. They're a long labor of love, and they're going to take us all year to create. But our instructional specialists have a really good start on that. And the feedback on Thursday on that if-then is how helpful that's going to be. But we see that really in individual conversations around students, right? Or classrooms. So that's where we're going to be doing a lot more of the training as their needs.
I know Bob and I were walking like staff want to keep it going, right? But then it comes to supervision evaluation. So when you are observing, how do you kind of tune in on some of that executive functioning development or what this child was class?
What are you thinking about executive functioning? A lot of time looking. One of the things I'm noting across the school districts is subsequent to Google Classroom, right? Everything's on Google Classroom. But taking something that not work to enhance executive functioning skills. Writing things down appears to be much more efficacious over time for them to remember and to be more responsive.
There's a lot of brain research around actually physically writing it. Yes.
It's on Google Classroom, just there. So for instance, I am currently a child who has to go to school every day, was supposed to write down sites. I don't have time, class is just over if we're gone. So he would need time. Then how that day is probably going to change.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying what devices to do, whatever.
Yeah.
But in thinking about how that, everything else we've done so far is check the screen, what I think after a number of months this summer, what I finally figured out is pass around.
Yeah.
He writes it down. You remember, you can.
Mhm.
That type of thing, and it's like, oh, maybe school's just not built for that.
Yeah, and it's what kind of tool they have, right? Because I mean, it's important because you go to Arrowhead and everything's on Canvas. So also, yeah, just teaching them how to use the strategy. Yep. Yeah.
So it's-
hmm
that you- the big cabin, rescue.
Right. Well, what you're talking about is every kid learns different, and we know that about executive functioning, right? Like we all have strengths and weaknesses. So it's, finding a strategy that works for you. Online works for some kids it doesn't. So what it is. Yep.
Like that's the, I'm on.
So we would call that like in our if then document a perfect example of an accommodation a teacher could use with the student to actually, have them take the last couple minutes of class to write it down, right?
Figure out how to set in, what he does, don't tell every day, he's supposed to show up with it. And so just, when you get it written down.
Yeah.
At speed, so maybe for a couple months in, we haven't gotten to a date yet, where
Mhm.
done that. So I appreciate that accommodation. What I have wondered is how does that have to have? Is that something that he has to have a document for, when a teacher?
I think we can probably I don't know, I would, if a parent came to me with something like that, I would, say at conferences, do we have a conversation of what works best and can we build it into that day? Because that's where we want to know. And I think because we're just starting to have those conversations on executive functioning here, I think our staff is still trying to figure out, what it is, what can we do better? Yeah.
Probably.
I see a lot of art. I see a lot of trophy.
Yeah.
That's the assignment. That's at the end of the day.
Mhm.
What is it?
Oh,
And that's the
that-
part.
Yeah.
Oh, that. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you meant like-
No, she's talking about the virtual assignment notebook. How can we, for some kids, a physical assignment notebook, and then making sure that we have time built in to do that, right? Because I mean, on it, and again, it's just every kid's different. So I think, if a kid needs something like that, I would hope we would be able to have conversations at conference time with the teachers about, can you just, get that in, or figure out a time where he can hop onto the virtual and write it down too. All right. I'm trying to think here. Ron and I are in the process on this one of our developing our ACP family winter night. We do that, so we're working on that. And we have a draft of the district AI policy that we will be taking to the board probably in spring. Our teachers will be doing a lot of that training within the next month. So a lot of these, again, are really well on our way. Our Merton Values committees are working on that. We're doing a lot of stuff in our multi-level system of support. So that, again, is what I'm referring to if-then documents, our more robust intervention toolbox that we continue to build. I'll talk more of that about Act 20 time. And our employee experience, our biggest thing is, we really this is our first year of implementing our new compensation model. So kind of doing that, continuing to get feedback. It's not green yet because we're in the process of collecting our school perception data. We did give staff a half hour to complete it, built into their professional development time. So hoping, that's the best we can do. We can't require people to take it. So, but we did build it into their time on Thursday. With a light breakfast and come and grab some coffee. But it's not yellow because we haven't reviewed it because we haven't taken it yet.
Or about a year ago, so hopefully we'll set reminders and hopefully.
Have you had casual conversations about the compensation about it? Are you hearing kids about it?
Yes, so it's, again, a happy thing, when I talk to our new staff, making sure that they're paid and it's not a conversation point. Well, we'll see for the school recession because, what we're back to see you part of the strategic plan all year. So hopefully, we'll find out school survey about how people are thinking about that. But I did have a conversation, felt like the compensation system was not fair to them, you know, where they might not have done as much as what they would have liked to. I know what the data shows and I know what the comparables are, so there's that double-edged sword. So I just see what people to check that out compensation this week on Monday about it. So, but I think it's working, and we actually are going to be presenting at the school board convention about that process. So we think they're really more broadly because the team was building staff for the compensation. I think so. There was a tremendous amount of their voice. They put it together. You know, they owned it. We put some parameters around it. They owned it. It's collaborative, and really feel that they walked away to be really good. I mean, the district and our employees and our staff. And it really showed in our new staff, we were able to attract, when we say, this is where we're at. Oh, okay, thank you. Some of these people have several years of experience in those. So the hope is in the future, we may have be a new teacher now, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, the same number. Correct, yeah. We're gonna have to look at this 3 to 5 years to see how we're doing comparison. Because I can tell you, like, our teacher salary, and we continue from business manager standpoint to gather all that, 51,000, very. Well, I think I just know about the education. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
On the professional development side, we do also build into every professional development day a feedback survey as part of their time to complete. Again, we can't really require them to, but we do Delta Pluses and we review that every time. We're refining some of our new teacher stuff. We talked about that at the last meeting. So that's green, because we reviewed it and we're making changes. The changes are made to be implemented next year. And of course, keep working on our professional development plan and including our instructional assistants as much as possible, which we did with the executive functioning professional development. And they're here a couple times on campus right along with our teachers. The collaborative, trusting, and positive work environment, as some of your board members know, this is more ongoing. It continues from the work we did last year, where again, we did try to build in also to their professional workday time that the policy subcommittee and personnel committee is coming this October. They're coming on Wednesday. It's a professional day in the morning from 8 to 8:30. So staff is here. So we set that up. So, that was some feedback that we got from staff, and we're going to see if it increases in increases attendance. If not, that might be something we look at, that just like the survey, but we have it built in. So it's there. So we have that. I know Ron is also, working with new staff at checkpoints and grade level department meetings at checkpoints. He's been working on that. So I think, all yellow in there. This work we haven't started to do yet, but we will put that on our agenda. Again, not behind, but we're really looking at our hiring process this year. Communication employees, again, this is really just also the same action items above as part of a collaborative work environment, which is really the key of holding some of those meetings that we have going on. And then our community experience, we're going to continue to enhance the communication system with our district families. We're doing that. We're going to collect some feedback. We're looking at school perception survey where we talk about that to see if going to Sunday nights has been effective or not. So looking forward to what that would be instead of. We still send random emails out. I think our 8th grade families got one from me today about Arrowhead transition stuff. There's some things that if it's very unique to a grade level or very unique to something that we don't want it buried, we still will send some out at different times.
Yeah, as well, still want to get that lost, particularly if to say yes.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's me. I like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got an eighth grader there. Support in our family experience. We had a really popular literacy and math night, and we were hoping to do a STEAM night this year with some extra FTE from some of our specialist teachers next door. They don't have as much FTE that we originally thought. So we're not sure what we're doing about that night, if we have enough in there to actually have them do something. So we're still playing with that, but originally they had a couple extra minutes every week and we had a sing. So like a full-time FTE is equivalent of how many instructional minutes they had based on their sections. Originally we thought yes. So originally we thought we had one less section and we would have more time, but we had to take it with some supervision time and some other requirements. So I'm not sure where that's going yet. It's red. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it might be different, or we might have to find a different way of getting it done. But otherwise, we're pretty good on our way of getting a lot of this community items done. And then I know Mary did implement that community connection surveys. And that's ongoing, and we're going to continue to do that till we find people that can come and help within our classrooms. And this one, we intentionally left blank. We don't have anything in that action item this year. So, we've got a lot of things in process. We're a busy place. So I think we answer most of your questions as they came up. Is there anything else before I talk about the science update?
Reach out to families whose students have gone to private high schools, see how they're doing. Comparison of how students here are doing it up here. Like if they went to
Well,
they
like if they left as high school. Yeah, and we have not. We don't actually, unless they ask for CUME files, we don't necessarily know where that would be. So. Yeah, that was highlighted yellow. So we do have a draft policy. We are doing training in November with our staff. We really want to develop some collaborative understanding about it so that policy makes sense to them, and also to help us with some of the rules. And what I mean is administrative rules to the policy. So that learning's happening. And yes, we do have a draft that we use from WASB with some Maria changes probably.
So that would also.
Yeah. All right. So on to science. I did kind of just remind it's on our cycle to look at science this year. Last time we had it, we did not look at it K-8. It was during COVID and it was just too much to manage primary. So we did some changes at 6-8. So now we combined them again. So it's been a while. So we're looking at that. Just a couple things. We met for a power day in summer with Merton values in the same week. We did a lot of things similar to our other community work. We reviewed the Merton strategic plan. We talked about what the curriculum and renewal cycle was. We looked at all relevant laws and state statutes related to science. We dug into our science standards, and they started reading different articles about science instruction and best practices in that, and they'll do that every time we meet. And then they actually looked at some of the artifacts of the last review. What did we have? How did it work? What did it look like? And then we began digging into the data that we have for that. That will be part of the report. What are remaining meetings for this year? We have in November, we'll be meeting in the afternoon. In January, we'll be meeting in the afternoon, just with our our intermediate staff, and then in February, just with our primary staff in the afternoon. And then we will be subbing out time to look at materials. We fill out a pretty robust rubric on materials. Transparency, I review all materials and I only bring to the committee those I can live with. So there are things that I've already said, ugh, that I'm not interested in. Are they highly rated materials right now? Are they aligned to our standards? Most of the science materials out there were never really aligned to the next generation science standards. And, really the engineering practices woven in, we do so much here on the STEM side. It's so important that we use them. So, and very few programs are written for them. So it really eliminated a lot. Because if the curriculum was not written after, I didn't even look at them. And I don't like seeing when they say, oh, we aligned it. There's a difference of aligning your curriculum to standards and actually writing them to standards. So that's my biggest thing. And then we'll have a March after school meeting. And my goal is to get it to the board, if possible, depending on when you have your March meeting, before we have new board members on, partly because they're not here participating with all the updates. And it would be hard to catch board members up to have their very first board meeting being reviewing something they've never been a part of. So depending on the timeline, that's still my hope for science. Any questions on the science review? Okay. Everyone can read my board members' memos. They're so interesting, Well, they are to me, but I don't know how many other people. Act 20, as you know on this memo, it just grows because I just keep all the updates and information. So it's really transparent to our public. And I just wanted to give a little bit of an update. We had one for the full board. I'm going to do this so I can walk away. But here's a little update. So if you remember, I said that Ames Web changed their norming, renormed, and some of those expectations changed. So what I did, remember, we implemented last January the amount of personal reading plans we had by grade level, and then what percentage of that was by grade level. So you would see kind of where this was when we reassessed in April where we were. And then I did put September in there. So that gives you an idea. You remember Maria said, I'm assuming we're going to have significantly less personal reading plans. We do. And so 4K does not have a PRP requirement, 4-year-old kindergarten, but we are required to test. So if we had students that were below the 25th percentile, that's the number that we would have. I am not looking for early intervention in 4K. That is a place for them to learn about letters and sounds, which is what they're assessing. So a lot of our kids come to Merton with some of that knowledge in there already with them. Some didn't. So I'm not overly worried about where that is. In our program review, we did a lot of training and they implemented learning cycles and some other really good work. And we're doing some good things on shared reading and writing. And I'm thinking it will all turn out fine. Of course, we might have some students that still might, need a little more opportunity to learn, and we'll look at that. But I'm just noting these numbers. So, I'm not. Actually, I'm still kind of disappointed in our number in third grade. Now, what I didn't include on here is our number of fourth graders that are still with personal reading plans because they didn't pass the state test. But considering the fact that they didn't have the same phonics instruction, early on as what we're giving our kids now. I mean, I'm not surprised there's more plans in earlier grades, right? So what are some things? Okay, why aren't you moving here? My slides do not want to move. So kind of what's up next? We're of course busy implementing the plans. We did create a family involvement website because the law requires us to have family at home activities for literacy. Our goal is at the end of the year to replicate that whole thing in mathematics. So it's not really an Act 20 thing, but we're busy working on that. We have continued required reading training. Last year, we actually gave all our staff time to complete the required training, Cox Academy. We did hire some staff that did not come with any training. So they're in the process. That's why it's still on there. So if they did not come to us with the training complete, then our job is to make sure they have it complete. So we're working on that. It is on their own time. We gave them all the materials during summer to complete it if they wanted to start already then. We're continuing to work out the bugs. We had a huge communication glitch in fall. And we were like, Marie's like, how can this happen? We did this and we've done this twice before. Well, we had so many students with personal reading plans that none of our students in our intervention, in our intensive interventions didn't have a reading plan. Well, now we have room to take additional students in our interventions that still meet our district requirements, maybe not the state's, but where we're still concerned about. And we had some communication glitches because we didn't have that problem last time. That problem didn't exist. Then we found the problem. So we are busy trying to fix that. And that's a good problem to have. But one I wish I would have done a better job anticipating. And then, of course, we have a lot of new district literacy materials and staffing that we're implementing. SIBS, Building Reading Success, a whole bunch from the 95% group. We have some intensive training for our interventionists going on, comprehension focus groups, strategy things, a lot of training. It's very overwhelming with the amount of new stuff. And our reading team is so awesome. They want to try everything we have different. So we're going to keep building that toolbox. Every time we find a weakness in what we don't have is where we're getting training. So comprehension was a weakness and we're hitting it big time. So some of these are intervention programs and some of these are intervention strategies and best practices. So there's training assigned to them, but it's not a kit that you're going to get. It's a framework or protocol. So that comprehension focus group is an example of a best practice, not something we bought, but something they're getting trained on. So they had training last week, this week. So that's what we have. And it's going great. I think we're all a little overwhelmed. I know the team is. I would be with all that new too, and trying to decide what we want to take out for a spin is exciting. What? Well, there's so much diagnostic information. We maybe been starting these interventions just for a couple weeks. And we're a tad behind over here at the intermediate school because as the board knows, we had to pull our literacy coach, who's the part-time interventionist, to cover a long-term sub situation. We do still have interventions going. We had to just pick our most needy students to be into those interventions coming out of the chute. We prioritize them with the time she had and some of our other reading team members, but we are looking forward. We will be picking up more students. So Lauren and I are already meeting on Friday to talk about those group works and all our diagnostics. So when she's back being a coach next week, we can look at reframing some of that. And I mean, just to be honest, we had to limit her training. She was supposed to take a lot of other training. I can't pull a long-term sub out of a classroom for all the training I wanted her to have. So we'll be continuing to trying to find when those opportunities come up again, additionally to keep building her toolbox. She was supposed to get Orton Gillingham training and another best practice. Both of those are not a program, meaning a practice. There isn't an OG guide that comes for every student. They have to create lessons. So that's going to be happening later on this year. So anything else on the Act 20 date? Okay. All right. Thank you.
That again. I call this meeting to order on October 27th, 2025 for the Merton Community Board of Education. The Pledge of Allegiance then, we go up? No.
That's the start of the other one. So our student showcase today is our theater, musical theater is going to be produced, or it's going to be showing Beauty and the Beast, which runs November 13th through the 15th. And we have a little sneak peek out in the cafeteria. We're ready to go.
All right, let's do.
So,
Oh, what's up?
floor is open.
Oh, the floor is open.
Six,
10, we're good.
I think
Okay,
we can
we're
go,
good.
we
Yeah,
can,
6:10.
well, we can see if there's any community forum.
Oh, yes, that's what you were saying. I'm sorry. I don't see anybody who wanted to speak at the community forum. Is there anyone who wanted to speak? Okay,
Oh, for six.
in that case,
Jinx yourself.
receive the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, this meeting, open meeting has been published in all of the usual places. And we are moving on to an approval of our agenda for this evening.
I so move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstentions. All right, and now we're moving on to the approval of the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? See, Dean, did you have anything?
I have nothing.
Thought you were about to speak. So.
Nope.
In that case, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstentions. All right, so we are now moving to delegations to be heard. I don't have anyone signed up for delegations to be heard. Would anyone like to be heard? I'm staring at you. Very good. Then we are moving on to our administrators.
Yep, we will start with our principal's report. Bob, it seems like we'll move to the front here.
Are you showing anything? If you're gonna
Yeah,
stand.
we'll show, I mean, well,
Yep.
you can, yeah. Take it in.
Sure.
Yeah. Stretch your legs, I guess. Yeah. Can you pass the button? All right, good evening, everybody. We wanted to just share with you a couple things. The first thing, something that we're trying at the primary school this year, to be, really to build some partnerships with families. He's passing around a copy of something that we send home with families when maybe there needs to be a correction or some redirection that happened at school. And this really came from our Merton Values team. As you know, we have a Merton Values team at each school. And we wanted to get build a partnership when maybe there's some lower level behaviors or concerns that happen before it rises to the level of the principal. Okay, so we call this our Whoa Easy Now, having to go with the Mustang team. I did not come up with that, not that creative. So we think that it's worked out pretty nicely so far in terms of building partnerships. A lot of times if it gets to the level of the principal, I'm calling the parents. And these are things that are generally like like I said, lower level, maybe there's some redirection. It's very simple for our staff to fill out. And more importantly, it's the conversation that can happen at home, because we know that our parents are our best partnerships in terms of like teaching those desired behaviors. I don't get involved with these, but it's what we've noticed is just a little bit better connection with our families in terms of, and we wanted to formalize this. In many cases, this is already happening across the school in different forms. And now we're just doing it across all of our grade levels. So you see the front and back that's on your sheet. And really the goal is to improve communication. We do track this data. It goes into like a spreadsheet. So for example, if they're in a special, let's say there's something that maybe there's a disagreement at a special that a note needed to go home. Think about a note coming home from school. Our special teachers also contribute to that. So we'll look at that data as a school, and then like it helps us inform maybe some things that we need to shore up, like with some of our routines, and it helps me do some reteaching at our monthly assemblies. I also do a daily principal message, so that kind of helps before it rises the level of like, okay, we need like administration help with this. So this is our real easy. So that was my share on.
I'm gonna tack on as but before I do, I just want to let you know, like during lunch today, the kids were really excited to perform today. They were talking about like,
Yeah.
you're gonna hear me my solo, you're gonna hear this, you're gonna see this. So they're very, they were, even though it was only a few minute thing, they were pretty excited to share today. So thanks for indulging in that. You can see how talented they are. And when you hear the mic, the mics and all the things, when they get mic'd up, they're in costume, looks awesome. All right. We've done a lot of work, as the board knows, a lot of the tier 1 work we've done around, and I've shared this before, some of the common expectations. How do we behave in different spaces? Then we've did some work around like that flow chart. If it doesn't happen, what do we do? And then how do we document that? And then really this summer, like Maria said, it was like this, it was June, but our team left super excited about this, because a lot of times when we have interventions for students, math, for reading, but what do we do besides, constantly having the same conversation? With these behavior academies was just the perfect like tier 2. What do we do? And we've actually just dipped our toe and started these already. We already have one student that we're working with in a behavior academy, looking to add another. We have to start slow, because the cool thing about this book, there's a lot that's already made, but also the nice thing about it is it kind of shares with, if you want to make your own, how to do it, just to kind of give you an idea of what is one of these academies. So a social skills academy behavior would be like, it's designed for students struggling with appropriate peer and adult interaction. And then, so if that's something we're seeing, there's 8 targeted skills: social awareness, self-awareness, turn-taking, empathy, cooperation, relationship building, communications, and patience. And so every lesson is around those. And with those are also the rehearsal cards. So you have kids practice what's the right way to respond to that. What would be a wrong way? What's the right way? And we also can get the kids at the middle school level. There's blank cards too, where the kids could create their own scenarios, or we could create them knowing this student is constantly having really big problems in football. Just exactly. And this is constantly coming up. How do we rehearse those with them? It's instead of saying, well, let's have a conversation. It's really targeted teaching of skills that we see lacking. And so as we now that we have systems in place and we have data coming in too, we now know like, okay, there are certain students that will meet this criteria, and it will help them. And hopefully we, feel good about having some targeted instruction. So like I said, we're really in the infant stage of this. We have currently 1 student in the academy right now, purposefully, because we want, the first time you want to run something, we don't want to run on mass level and go, well, we really need to change a whole lot. Our goal actually coming out of the summer was to wait until second semester, but we're already in our PST meeting, kind of excited to get it rolling. So we said, let's start one. We're actually designing a second one right now. But I just think it's like the next level of where we're at. The team was super excited. I know Bob's team was there too. Both of our teams left that with like it was June.
Yeah.
We were excited to come and get the work done.
Yeah, I just add, it's in our strategic plan to get these rolling. But when we talk about behavior academies, a little bit different than these. These are really for probably less than like 3 to 5% of students. So this is a very, very small group that would have an intensive intervention. This is not something that we would not connected to this, but connected to this. So again, like Steve's talked about, really building our system around like being really intentional. We have the academic side, but the behavior side needs shoring up, so.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from teachers about this?
Pretty positive so far. I think some of the things that we had to work through is like, how do you make it student and family friendly across a building that starts in K4 to 4th grade. So we had to kind of find a sweet spot with that. So I think it's been a good, we just met today, our Valley team just met today, and we talked about some tweaks that we want to do. We also, we're currently put it into like a generic spreadsheet. We want to leverage our data warehouse, our next path to help with that. So kind of the next step with it, but it's been, to answer your question, positive. It's created some conversations and it's been really good.
Steve, where in the day when these behavior academies can happen, where does that happen?
It's student by student, so this, I'm trying to think. The student either has study hall or we've communicated to parents. Sometimes it might be, we look at the least restrictive place we can take it from, right? And typically, like Bob said too, if a student's is in a behavior academy, and parents have already, I've already probably had conversations about some behavioral things, right? So they've got written up before. I've had conversations with them, and so then the conversation on the phone is like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to, for us to teach these behavior skills. So, and I think it even goes hand in hand with some of the learning with executive functioning. I think we think about, I'm thinking about the one we're designing right now, like a student who, sometimes I always tell them, just need a stop sign to stop to think what you're going to say, because what comes out isn't always appropriate. And then, but thinking about how do we, but I can tell them that over and over and over and over again, like broken record. But this is the aha with the behavior academy. Now we're going to have him work together to write those rehearsal cards to practice. What shouldn't I do? And now what could be my response instead? Or sometimes responses don't respond, but.
Things. Glad to hear it's working so well.
Mhm.
Put the vocabulary up on those questions just a little bit, and that is the training hospitals are doing between clinicians when they are not getting one. It's that.
Mhm.
For adults who work in hospitals.
So, yeah, we're excited. We're excited to be able to say we're, on the behavior, and not only are we tracking, it's fun, it's fun to track behavior, it's fun to have behavior, it's fun to have consequences. But then what about that, the explicit teaching piece, especially the students?
That's the best practice. It's giving them a chance to hear themselves saying it, and knowing that the first week on say Friday usually doesn't go very well because you're changing.
Mhm.
So we expect this to be.
Yep. And the very first time we meet with somebody in the academy, we lay out why you're there, what you're going to learn, and why, like the student probably knows, but we want them to be clear. So the next time we meet, this is what we're going to. Any other questions?
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Appreciate knowing that work is going on. Still on good. Okay, we're moving to open record requests.
So we had one pretty typical open record request asking for all the emails and the positions of our staff, which is pretty typical. So we turn over what we have. That's it for the month.
Great.
From a donation standpoint, we did not have any donations this month. So
All right.
pretty simple. So the other piece that I just wanted to highlight and for our families who are there is right now we are conducting our family engagement survey through School Perceptions. It is open through, I do believe, next Sunday or Monday. Right now we have about 160 responses, I do believe. So hoping to get as many as possible. So that is ongoing. We'll be sending another reminder email like good researchers do. So that's happening right now. And then we're also collecting staff feedback too as well. So, and then the third piece to that is we will be talking to our kids in a couple weeks in grades 4 through 8, and our families tomorrow will be getting more information about that.
And about approximately how long does it take families to fill out the survey?
Oh, under 10 minutes. Under 10 minutes. Doesn't take long. Yep. So all feedback is appreciated. Thank you.
Great. Let's move on to committee reports.
Okay, so the first one we have is our finance committee. So, which is the a big part. And again, we'll be having a action item a little later in the meeting to approve a levy as well as a budget. But the first part of the meeting is again was that time when we looked through our quarterly financials. School districts are unlike other businesses where things kind of go in quarter. It doesn't happen that way in schools. So you can see, so basically what we try to do is we kind of try to compare year over year about where we are landing first quarter to see exactly, hey, how are we doing basis on revenues and expenditure. So you can see in your packet that that was presented at the committee meeting that you'll see that we are doing very well as it relates to both our revenues and expenses for quarter one. Quarter two, we'll get a little bit closer, and again, we can continue to project out how we're doing. Just a reminder to our community and to our board that teacher salaries start in September, not in July and August. That's why there's kind of that big lag. So we just kind of get into things, and again, we'll give a quarter two update in January. So, but things are looking good for quarter one. Nothing out of the ordinary. The last piece that we talked about, which was the big one we were going to be discussing a little bit, is all of our variables came in for school finance. So our third Friday count occurred. October 1st was our property values that were finalized. And then October 15th was the state aid that was finalized for each school district in the state of Wisconsin. This memo pretty much guides the process and the thinking for those of you that have been with us for a while. It's kind of the same memo we've had for the last couple of years that kind of outlines the process that we go through. So this is ultimately the third rendition of our budget. So in May, we present a preliminary budget. Did you not get one there, Nicole? There you go.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All good.
In May, we present a preliminary budget. Then we have our annual meeting, which happened in early September, which we get a little bit more refinement. And then ultimately, after we get those variables, we have the new proposed budget that is in front of you today. Through the memo, you're going to find that we do try to compare about how we estimated versus where did we come out from an annual meeting standpoint. And you'll see that we really estimated quite well. The only piece, which is a big piece, which ultimately affects the tax levy, is the state equalization aid was about $500,000 lower than what was anticipated. At the finance committee, Patrick asked, Ron, why is that now? Why over the last couple of years that we're falling short where a typically developing school district across the state is within percents? So I asked DPI. And I got a very DPI answer. And I said, let's set up a time to talk. So I know what we can do from a school district to get more accurate numbers, making sure that that July 1 can be a little bit more accurate. So I've sent 2 emails to the DPI finance team, and we'll have some information, hopefully, at least to learn to make sure that we can do what we, through our budgeting process and through our spending. And when we spend, making sure that DPI takes a snapshot at a time that's appropriate, and we've got everything into the budget. We've got maybe more money spent, whatever it might be, to help with support that too. So more to come on why all of a sudden we have these shifts the last couple of years. Last year was about 200,000. This year was 500. And you'll see as you work through the memo that 500,000 basically is 35 cents onto the levy. So
Did
again,
DPI answer you about a meeting?
no. They
Two
gave
emails,
me
no answers.
well, they responded in such that it's not sufficient. Every school district is different. There's some shared costing variables that we could kind of look at. And I said, well, let's talk
Yes.
and figure this out.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
So two requests. So that'll be coming with that too, again, because we just want to make sure we're as accurate as possible, certainly because again, this is kind of that big matzo ball when we said 295 and all of a sudden it's 330, still lower than a year ago, but not what we expected. So, but everything's coming in as expected. Our FTE, or our student equivalent, is up about 7, which is good, which you'll see that's why, some of the revenue limit is increased there. But property values came in very close. We had about an 8.2% increase in property values. This year, I can't tell you what the percent of net new construction, as we know, there's a lot of properties that are being developed. We have farm fields at the time. Again, the snapshot for property is January 1 to December 31st, 2024. So if you think of a farm field that now has a road, that's more property value. Well, next year, that road now has a dozen houses. So it's going to continue to build that base. But this year, the net new construction numbers weren't as clean. They didn't break them up by school district, like I was able to kind of compute, it was built around from a K-8 or from a K-12 standpoint. So when we think of the village of Lisbon, I got it right, Dean, village of Lisbon, that goes across Sussex, Arrowhead, Aaron, or wherever it goes. It's huge. Town of Merton, same thing. So I wasn't able to get as detailed, which I was a year ago, because we could say last year it was almost 50% of our property growth came from new value, which ultimately helps spread that levy across more percentage of homes and things like that. So
This information came in a different way this year. Is it from year to year? You don't know what kind of information you'll get, or do they have trends that?
it's a really good question, because I asked the question of some larger K-12 business managers who really dive into that. They're like, Ron, this year we don't know how to help you. And even for them too, their municipalities were not broken down by school district like they've been done in the past. So they're just like, we can only guess. And so instead of guessing, I'm just telling you, overall, the district property raised about 8.2%. So yeah, everything was good. So, some big takeaways is that we're up about 78,000 or about $78,000 between the annual meeting and what was expected on a positive side. In that though, there's out of that 68,000, an additional 38 was for school vouchers. So from a school district standpoint, we were within $40,000 of a $10 million budget. So good estimating
One
there.
clarification, when you said 8.2% a little bit ago, is that a different number, or did you mean 8.7%?
Or 8.7%. I'm sorry. Is that what it is? 8.7%? I'm sorry, 8.7. Yeah.
For all those listening at home.
Yep, there we go. Ultimately, we put that all together. We get a revenue limit. We don't control any of these variables right now per the Merton Community School District. The only one that is basically for us that we've approved is the Fund 41. You'll see $100,000 on one of the lines towards the bottom, which would be 14C, which was approved at the annual meeting. So the recommendation of the Finance Committee was that we levy to the max, which ultimately means that we take the maximum amount of taxable income that is allowed for the school district, which ultimately creates that mill rate of $3.30. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later in the meeting. All right. Next one was finance. So our facility. So the facility team, and again, when I say team, Mr. Newcomer, Mary Iwanski, our intermediate staff would like the board to consider coming back to the remodel of the intermediate library. The team met, and we kind of, when I say team, even before we got to the facility team, met and said, okay, what are some options we want to take a look at? And what you'll see in front of you are 4 options that were presented to the team, the facility team. And again, we're going to continue to work through these. We did settle in number 1. Option number 1 was what we brought a year ago. And option 4, and you'll see the pros and cons to, are kind of where right now our administrative team would like to focus in on. By doing option number 4, it does give us a lot of flexibility. It allows for 1 additional classroom, which Mr. Newcomer and his team is kind of asking for, because we kind of have a floater that floats between health class, ACP are the big ones, and then a math class too as well, that kind of floats. So option 4 also gives some district storage, which is desperately needed as well. So, and it's pretty least disruptive. When we say least disruptive, we feel it's the best plan, but ultimately when we take a look at a construction blueprint about what would need to be done, very similar to what it was a year ago, but again, very simple, confined to 1 area. And we feel that it meets the needs of the district in the standpoint of an additional classroom, keeping a large group space downstairs for our 5th grade to enjoy when they want to go whole group. But we also like this option too, because it does give us a window and some natural light into the library, the proposed library area too. So it doesn't pigeonhole us to any, say we need to all of a sudden pop a classroom. That district storage would easily become a classroom. It would be large enough. It'll be about 900 square feet for that too as well. So we've also considered a lot of different things, whether it would be, hey, do we need more offices for teaching and learning? Do we want to put our administrative offices kind of in 1 area? We had a lot of discussion about that. We have some proposals, but at this time, we really wanted to bring the option of at least the idea of renovating the library forward to the board and get a sense about how we're feeling before we really dig into some more detailed planning, before we get too far down the road. The approximate cost from a year ago was right around $270,000. We feel the footprint is very similar and kind of the construction would be similar. Obviously, we'd have to go out to bid, but we would be targeting right around that $300,000 mark. Half of it probably is going to be in fixture, furniture, and equipment. That's just kind of the way it goes. That stuff's expensive. New equipment, new furniture, new shelving, and the other half would be construction costs. We do believe that we would have to go with a construction manager to complete this. So we're talking about, we would engage we engage about 4 or 5 construction managers, see who's interested, and then ultimately create a bid spec. So we would bring the final plan back to the full board before we trigger anything forward. But before we move forward, we'd like to know if this is something that the board would like to move forward with ahead of, so we can start to engage some other contractors and move forward with the planning. But we didn't want to do that without kind of the consensus of the board.
We're ready for
Yep.
questions or
Yep.
discussion.
Yep.
I have some questions, but go ahead.
Probably one thing you didn't discuss, the construction would probably be next summer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay,
We're looking at this summer. So summer of 26.
summer 26.
Summer of 26. Yep.
And so your priorities here are creating at least one new classroom space
Yep.
and maintaining a large group space.
Yep.
The window.
The window coming in. Yep, I see that. Did I miss anything?
District storage,
Yep, district
and then
storage.
flexibility for future growth.
So between 3 and 4, why do you like 3 better than 4? Oh, 3, I guess
Wasn't it
3.
1 and 4? Or
One
was it
4.
1 and 4?
1 and 4, what you like best, yes. But what I'm looking at.
Yep.
I guess my question was, why not 3?
Why not 3?
Don't you like that?
What I don't like about 3
You don't have
is
to speak, but
we
why you don't-
we don't get it. We don't gain an additional classroom in 3.
That isn't an extra. Okay, yep.
Yep, because the library would go
Yep.
actually displaces 2 teachers. So then we would be created. That's why we weren't big fan. Now, we like that location, but we felt that as we looked forward, we're net zero, which doesn't benefit us.
So then each classroom, the special ed classroom then doesn't have a window, but everyone else does.
But everybody else would, correct? Yeah. But special education at the intermediate school comes and goes. Again, our goal is to serve them in the least restrictive environment, but again, it's an in and out potentially there. Our upstairs special education room is very similar to that too, as well, where it is an interior room. That's also a functionality of size there too. For that one upstairs is a little bit smaller, right around 700 square feet, I do believe.
So the biggest difference between 1 and 4 is the configuration of where the library sits, and that 4 puts it with a window. Are the costs similar to?
We anticipate, given,
For each one.
wall construction, very similar cost. But again, until we go out and see, we would anticipate something very similar.
My question is on number 1, so we're talking about a library. But it says limited design to accommodate the books.
Yep.
And limited, I mean, can we break that down?
Sure. When we say limited is we have, it will be very tight with the books. When we say tight is we're going to go through every year. We kind of go through books and say, hey, what circulation hasn't been used and things like that. We do have, accommodate the books. Basically the shelving will be very, very tight with our current.
So we would have less books as options for students?
We would go through and weed what we would typically do, but ultimately, whenever you move a library, you kind of weed a little bit more. When we say weed, it's basically what books haven't we used at all in a long, long time, and just kind of recirculate them out. But
in 4, one of the cons is still smaller footprint, but you don't have that limited book space as a.
We felt that we would be able to, with the footprint of that, be able to accommodate more of the book space too as well.
Is it because there's fewer doors and walkthroughs?
Doors, walkthroughs, just a little bit more. You have opportunity to go up a little bit higher with some books. Again, that was just kind of in our preliminary. This is all preliminary. We're going to continue to.
And this is just a conversation, right? We're not like official vote?
No, this is just a conversation to see if there is enough momentum for us to spend our staff and administrative time and start to engage some other contractors moving forward.
Personally, I appreciate all this and all the work. I don't feel like it's there yet. Personally.
What are you looking for? What else you?
Well, let's not get rid of books, like redo a library, but it's gonna be smaller and we're getting rid of what a library is meant to be.
So if we go with something like 4 and they're able to keep.
Still a
the book,
smaller
but
footprint
it
and
is
it's
still a smaller book.
still not giving them the storage either that they're looking for. So
4 gives us some storage. It gives us 900. It's a little bit, we can handle that because it's larger than what we currently have. We would be gaining about 900 square feet of storage in Jupiter 4. We believe, Nicole, from a traditional library standpoint, that we don't need a 3,600 square foot library anymore.
Okay.
We truly believe that an 1,800 square foot library can meet the needs of our students, our staff, as well as the academic needs that are there. One of the cons too is right now there's some small group spaces that, kids can kind of go to. It does limit it as much there too as well. So correct. We just believe that we don't need the 3,600 library, but
I'm one of 5.
Yep.
That's just my personal opinion.
And so one of the things I'm hearing is perhaps you are not seeing how the priority is met by the plan.
By either one of them. I feel like so we have 4 options and my opinion is how do you get the best of both out of 1 and 4? Like, can we take it one more step? And then come back with a proposal? So if you're looking at them here.
The reason why we went away from 1 was feedback that we had about having the natural light window. That right now, kids in the library
It's a dark
go
cave
towards the natural
yep,
light.
that's where they go.
and the one end just feels darker and unused as well because it is darker.
So like I'm seeing for pros, gives large group space. Gains 2 classrooms. This is 1 classroom.
The difference we would change in number 1 of the classrooms, we would just designate instead of extra classroom, we would say it's storage. Because you actually create, one of them would be storage and the other one becomes an extra, which is ultimately, and we really didn't uptake number 1. So number 1 and 4 gives you the same spaces. We just believe that the change of the natural light in 1 or from 1 to 4 is the difference maker there.
Is the difference. And because it's not in 1 as the space is now, there are 3 different entrances to that space and you have to cross that space to get back to these classrooms. So is that part of what's happening?
Yeah, we also would have 1 entrance into the library and 1 exit as well.
I think the natural light in there does help for student management as well, because there's always going to be some light.
Yeah. I do also want to mention, it came up at the committee meeting, how would this be funded? Okay, this is not budgeted for. This would be basically a use of our fund balance. So we would tap into our fund balance just like we did for our roof. This would be a one-time Fund 10 fund balance project that would hit a combination of more than likely hit more in the 2026-27 school year, just based on timing and things like that of when it would go.
So then timeline to think about what happens next. Paul said this is not an action item for
Yep.
tonight. It's a discussion that what do you perceive happening?
So we would just like, to Nicole's point, would love the feedback to say, hey, it's just not working for me. I'd like to see X, Y, Z, or the rationale isn't there. Just any feedback that we can go and kind of, squander up and create a new footprint or something different in the design process would then come back to the full board in November. We could do that again because we have a quick turnaround. It's November. And then ultimately at that time, we would need to say, hey, let's go ahead and do this, because then we really need to quickly engage our contractors, which it won't take long, because I do believe that given the work that they've done already and that they're familiar with the space, we'd reach out to the people who responded last time with the RFP process. And, we have our furniture and our fixtures kind of picked out, so it would be like a complete redo. We would really like to have this in front of the board in January for approval, so we could get on the calendar and ready to go and get prices locked in for the summer of 2026.
So as you continue to work on this, I think part of what might be missing is we've got the pros and cons lists here, but it doesn't start with the need statement, right?
Right.
That, so that
Okay.
I think you're missing a part of your narrative. I think you know the narrative. I just don't think it's here.
I think that's what's missing for me. And then I
Okay.
just saw limited books.
So
Sure.
the pros and cons
Um,
feels like the second step, once you know what the needs is, it feels like you know it, but it isn't as well articulated here.
Okay.
And can you discuss future ability for library classroom space if after school moves? Future ability for library classroom.
Right here.
So you have the ability for a second classroom. I'm talking on 4.
Yep.
Net gain of 1 classroom, but you could get 2 if after school moves.
Correct. Well, after school currently occupies 3 classroom spaces. And so if we, again, ultimately, we would have to pick up after school and move them somewhere else, right? The primary school, more than likely. You do have opportunities for some expansion there too, as well. In all of our scenarios, because we're always looking to say what happens if we grow, if we need to pop a classroom, in particularly in the 5th grade area, because the after school program does have some flexibility throughout the day. Like, for instance, they may only need that 3rd classroom in the afternoon, so we could use it in the morning. Again, we want to make sure that we can meet the needs of our families through as much after school as possible. We've heard that before,
Definitely.
which is a big priority. We want to make sure that we're taking care of families too. So what
Wouldn't
I'm
that-
hearing is,
Wouldn't that
go
be a
ahead.
pro in everyone? Wouldn't it be true for any of them? If
Yeah.
after school moves, we'd have more space.
For all of them.
Okay, so that's not really just specific to one plan.
No.
Okay.
No.
Timing wise, one of the advantages is, this coming budget does not have any big,
Costs.
like a roof, surfacing the parking lot, things like that. There's nothing anticipated in this coming year like that. So, any surplus from the budget, because he figures probably 3% more
3%, what we hope for.
than what he normally, what the expenditures were, could also go into funding part of this.
I'm interested in doing the work. That's the, but when trying to make a selection here, I need to see what you're trying to meet so that I know how to make a good choice.
Okay.
Is the after school area a similar size to the library?
It is. Yep.
Could there possibly be a switch there? Is a window there? Or-
Yep. It's a general classroom. There's actually 2 classrooms in there. There are. Yep, right there. They need to have separate spaces.
Okay.
There need to be some separate spaces in there. Not to say we could do some finagling. Again, we're also trying to, limit our construction
Mhm.
cost in some of this at this point. I mean, because we even talked about, building offices and the teachers. I mean, there's all sorts of other things, but right now we just kind of wanted to focus in on this project.
But does it cost more down the road if we aren't looking at? I'm not saying we can do it all, but from a construction standpoint, does it make sense if we're already have a crew here doing things to look at some of those other options as well?
With the volume of scale that we're doing, this is a fill-in project a lot. If they get done with a job early or late, because all of them said, hey, we will get to this between June 15th and August 15th. Just because of the scale of it, they can throw it here or there too. So we can look into, see if there is a quantity of scale that we could bring, because there is conversation amongst our administrative team to say, hey, is it worthy of bringing a traditional district office together? So tech, curriculum, special ed, the superintendent, business are all together, because right now we're kind of scattered across a couple different buildings too as well. So we could bring that forward as well, because that's, again, very simple construction, right? We're building walls, and that's something that we could bring something forward that too as well. That I think is probably the next, again, the district need would be, again, it costs money to put us together, and not to say that, we can't walk, across the campus or anything, but we could discuss that too as well with some of that planning we have.
I like to see better use of space. I like to see the planning, that type of
Okay.
thing. And I do appreciate that this is not, that this is a good time for it, that we wouldn't have another large thing we're planning. This district has traditionally done a really nice job of making sure we're keeping things up and planning it like that. So that's a compelling point as well.
So, okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll bring some direction. We'll bring it back to the board for some consideration. The last piece that we talked about, which we're really excited about, for those of you who have been here for a little bit, is a turf soccer field. Very similar to when we brought the turf volleyball court out. Is the kids love playing volleyball, and it was a mud hole. Right now, we have kids who love to play soccer, football, whatever backyard games. And our area is just all beaten down. And when it rains here, sometime it's all going to be mud. So this is a partner project like we've done with other projects in the past, is looking at a proposal to bring a mini turf soccer field to the back of our Merton primary school. Again, it would be striped soccer, not to say you can't do other things, but we already have the goals and everything, thanks to some PTO work, I do believe. But just looking to partner in a very simple rectangular turf field for our kids. Right now, I am collecting bids. Things are coming in, right around that 80,000 mark, plus or minus. On some things, we should have 4 competitive bids for that. And just again, PTO is committed right around that 40,000 to it. Again, half. You can see how things are going with their fundraiser. Again, they'll be announcing that next week. And I'll have some final numbers for the board once we bring those proposals together. I do believe we can put this project into the budget. No problem. It'd be about $40,000 approximately. And it would be greatly needed by our kids, our community. Just would be a really fun thing for our kids to do because they enjoy the volleyball court every day. And we really feel that would enhance our student experience.
What's life expectancy on these?
15 years. Approximately 15 years. When the replacement would be needed, all you need is new turf. That's the nice part about it, new turf. It's because all the base work has been done too as well. So about 15 years. Warranty is 10. Might even get 15 on some things, but typically it's a 10-year warranty.
Thank you.
Yep.
A few years ago, when we were getting ready, before we did the volleyball court, I thought wasn't there a plan to put some shade sails in at the primary school? What happened to that?
I think that the momentum for that kind of went, well, it would be more of a summer project just based on the seasons. What we thought when I say a summer project, it gets really hot June, July, and August. We're not in school.
Well, except for this year. So one of my questions is, I don't think we're going to have a cooler climate. We're headed towards a warmer climate. So having shade, especially for our teachers who need to be outside and kids who can't overheat, that type of thing. I appreciate this. I'd like to see this, but I would like to see some follow-up on that project. Because I felt like we heard a lot about it and then it wasn't there anymore. May can be hot. September was hot this year. It was 90 degrees at a soccer game the other day in the middle of October. So I would like to continue that conversation about how we can find a way to add some of that in, because I think it allows us to use our outside space better and not wear down our staff as much. So I'm not saying
take a look at that.
I just remember we had a conversation. I remember that was out there.
3
and then
years
it went
ago.
away.
Yeah.
Yep. And I never heard why.
Fantastic. It has an expectancy 10, 15 years. Does this affect if we needed to build? Is this in anywhere?
Any of the areas that we would look at. Nope.
All right.
Be sure of that. Absolutely.
Perfect.
The negative part is it's be right along if you think of field 2, it's going to run basically right in parallel to field 2. And that, I don't want to say the outfield fence, but if you extend a line down third base, it's going to be right on that corner. I think somebody asked the question, can it handle spikes and all the turf shoes? Absolutely.
Okay.
It'll be built for that, but it is not any future expansion.
Okay.
This is a small area. It'd be the little kid in their soccer programs to have that small field, the 3-on-3 type. One of the things it's going to save is having to either sod it or try to replant grass in there. Cause it is getting more down.
It's dead. It is absolutely dead. Yeah. Which it should be. Kids should go out and have some fun.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so that'll come in November.
That comes in
That'll come
November.
Thank you. We'll have some more financials from that too as well. So, finally, our Student Achievement Committee, again, thank you very much to Maria and, for Rebecca and Patrick for coming a little early today. We did talk about our continuous improvement. Again, ultimately, we took a look at our proposed strategic plan work. You'll see that it's color coded. And if it's not color coded, means we're right on schedule. We haven't started it yet, but we really feel positively that we'll make sure that we accomplish that as the year moves forward. So again, it's a very easy work just to kind of take a look at that. And again, that is a culmination of our entire staff too, as well, and many, many people. We also got a science committee update. Again, Maria walked through how that is going. We are on track. Again, big thank you to our staff. There are 13 members of that team. And every science teacher. So right around 13 people. So 13 staff members coming together to formulate that too. So big thank you to that work. And then ultimately an Act 20 update. So yes, we continue to update because there's things that we just want to make sure that the board's aware of, our community's aware of. And probably one of the bigger takeaways that kind of combined both Act 20 as well as our strategic planning work is the summer prep that we're going to have to do and kind of continue to figure out, because we need to offer basically, if you're on a reading plan, we need to offer some assistance through the summer. We want it to be the best quality in summer school. Again, the variables are is they may not be our teachers. They may be new to the profession, and who knows who's going to be in there. So we want to make sure that we create some very strong curricular resources so that whoever's in that position can deliver that curriculum for our kids. So again, that connection between the strategic plan and our Act 20 work too as well. So that's all I got for committees.
Thank you, Maria.
Yep.
Okay, we're moving on to new business. Our first item is to approve the 2025-26 district budget and tax levy, and this is an action item.
Yep. So have discussed the kind of the recap of the finance committee. The administrative recommendation and the committee recommendation is a full levy. There are two motions to this action item, if it's desired. One is, again, we would have to read it. Again, ultimately setting the tax levies, the Fund 10. Fund 38 is the solar panels. Basically, we did borrow 6 years ago, approximately right around there, for our solar project. Again, we have about 3 years left after this, I do believe. That's what Fund 38 is for. Fund 41 is untouchable because that was levied at the annual meeting. So then ultimately, when you take a look at our revenue limit, the tax levy then is $6,023,967. So, and that creates a mill rate of $3.30. Just looking for a motion to approve the administrative and the finance committee recommendation.
So moved.
I think we need to
I think we
read.
have to read,
We
I
could
think we have
read
to
this
read
one.
this.
Knew that was
Oh,
gonna be
thank you
too
very
easy.
I'll make a motion to recommend to certify the tax levies of Fund 10, $5,866,779. Fund 38, $57,188. Fund 41, $100,000 for a total tax levy of $6,023,967.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
Okay, the other action item this evening is, again, you've seen this item about 3 times, once in May, once at the annual meeting, and then ultimately this evening. This represents a balanced budget. And again, these are all woofer codes and explanations for what they are with sources and object codes. This is what the administration and the facility team are recommending about where we spend our money. This is a fluid budget. We know things are going to ebb and flow. So, but the administration and the finance committee is recommending the board make a motion to approve the 25-26 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions?
Thank you. So our next step, Nicole, I'll be reaching out to you and we'll be getting some signatures. This week I have to deliver the tax levy information. What I do now is put this information into the state portal. It then divvies up to the appropriate municipality, creates 4 sheets of paper, which I bring to Nicole. She signs, and then I hand deliver those to the those clerks. So
We have to get those notarized too.
I
don't
do
we?
believe we did notarize. Yep, it's that time of year. So, and I think you're the only one who can do that. So I'll get those to you hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next item of new business is discussion about adding a part-time human resource position. This is something that I added to the agenda. We had a brief discussion about this a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And one of the things we'd asked was, did any of the other feeder schools, were they looking perhaps to do a 6603 and sharing a human resource person? And Ron had reached out and hadn't really heard anything about that. Didn't hear that anybody was interested in the conversation, kind of dropped from there. In thinking about it more recently, Ron, as you'll recall during the strategic planning meeting, I said one of my goals for the district was to be a best place to work. This is, I would love to see us named there. And we do many, many good things, but we're not hitting some of what I think are best practices in workplaces. And I think it's because we have you doing everything, right? That's, I think it's too many jobs for one person you do many, many things really well, but there are too many things on the plate here. And so a few things that I have been thinking about are that, one, for instance, you do a really phenomenal job in negotiating our health insurance. That's something that I don't think very many districts do nearly as well as you. I also think, though, it is difficult for then people need to come to tell the person who negotiates their health insurance that they're about to use it and maybe in a big way. There's in other institutions, I've heard of concerns about this. I know my family members at other institutions have had. I mean, people shouldn't need to feel guilty about using their health insurance. And we, of course, want them to use it, but it's also, you see where that's kind of weird, kind of, or where people may be less comfortable about that. It also means that you end up with everybody's health information. And that's not I am not saying you were doing anything wrong by it. I think that is a whole lot of information for one person to have, who then also is the person who recommends renewals and things like that. I think we open ourselves up to risk by having all of that in one person. This is not an accusation. I want to be very clear about this.
Oh, yeah. I understand what you're saying.
It's not an accusation.
Yep.
But if that was asked, everything would be, we as a board would say, well, that's this one person who has all of those pieces for it. So I had been thinking about that, as well as having someone for the people who work for you to talk to. Because the only way we as your supervisor hear about anything is it gets elevated to the level of the board. And that's relatively unlikely to happen because it's pretty serious to get it there. So there's not a good place for people to come and talk with kind of everyday things or smaller trends that they see that doesn't elevate it to a pretty serious action. And so in that, both of those, I think, are reasons that I think we could benefit from having somebody who, part-time person who could do some of our human resources. So that's why I'm bringing it to the board for said discussion. So I'm interested in hearing from other folks.
Question. Does Arrowhead have a human resources employee?
Ask another question and I'll find out. I don't think so.
How about Heartland Lakeside?
No.
They're a little more equivalent.
Heartland Lakeside, well, I don't believe so.
Heartland Lakeside did. Is that?
They did.
Do they no longer?
I know their superintendent. She came from a human resource background, but let's see.
You're looking at Arrowhead.
I'm looking at Heartland Lakeside now, then I'll go there. Keep discussing, talk amongst yourself.
Okay.
So Dean, you're interested in comparables? Is that?
Comparables,
Yep.
There are third-party HR people that we could find out whether they would work in a situation like this and what their costs would be.
That's kind of one of the things I was looking at, because I reached out a little bit. I was just doing some looking around, and the third party, like the CISA's, third party rates were really high.
Really high. I
Like
have,
$150 an hour
Yep.
type of thing.
Arrowhead does have one.
Yeah, maybe else.
full-time or is it,
That doesn't tell me
Doesn't
on
say.
here.
okay? These are all the questions we should get some feedback.
I do have, I'd have to go back and pull it back out because I know there was a question about just to run FMLA, for instance, from the health standpoint of it. Very expensive. Because again, it would be something that you contract with, but to hold your spot because we're so small. It's not like, hey, when somebody has an FMLA issue, oh, the clock starts. It's a contracted service, just from the FMLA standpoint to answer that part.
So Dean, I had also thought that I'm not sure that it needs to be a part-time person. It could be a contracted idea. When I was looking at just some of the contracted rates, and this is very cursory looking,
Yeah.
it looked to me like we could have a part-time person who could do some other things. Like, for instance, we wouldn't need to hire somebody to do our exit interviews, right? We wouldn't need to outsource that. And we pay, looked for like from the numbers you sent me, about $800 per exit interview.
Approximately.
Okay.
Yep.
So there would be some other things that that person could do that we might be kind of close in what we'd be paying if we went to the third party anyway. But I agree, we should see what those numbers would look like.
We currently do offer what's called an ombuds. From our conversation a couple years ago, we do have an ombudsman who then ultimately we communicate that with staff. I can tell you it's not well utilized. It's basically a phone number for a person to talk through some of these human resource situations. So kind of when people want it, either there's a concern or what do I do? How do I process this? We've kind of filled that gap with that too as well. So,
Well, and that was something I was interested in and had suggested a while ago. From what I hear from people who've used it, they essentially can say, is what's happening legal or not? But because they're not here and not a part of this community, they don't have a sense of who they should talk to or anything they could do to really resolve it. It's more it's legal or it's not.
Yeah,
And so they weren't feeling, people who had used it didn't feel that they knew what to do next.
I would be interested in, were you able to find anything on Heartland Lakeside?
they have here it is. They have a payroll / benefits specialist that's on their human resource webpage, as well as the accounts payable person. So, from a benefits specialist, I'm assuming that with the person who builds their employee benefit plan and creates that too as well. I don't know if she's negotiating or what they're looking at from a trend standpoint. But yeah.
Could you use WSB as a resource to
Right, that's a question.
see what other school districts around the state are using?
From a part, I could
Look
see
to
what
see if they have
WASB, we do have, every month we have it's called WASPA, the Wisconsin Association of School Personnel, people. And I could talk to them and kind of put a survey together to say, hey, what's your staff number and what's your percentage? Very simple. And what's your percent of human resource allocations? Because some organizations have a lot. If they have, 500 employees, they may have 3 or 4 people, depending on what it is. So I can gather some more information if that's something that the board would like me to do. And it's pretty simple, just kind of kicking something out to my WASPA friends.
Yeah. I think I'd also be interested to know, are there any internal things that could be looked at as far as efficiencies with looking at somebody's role that we currently have to make sure that we've exhausted those opportunities as well?
I mean, people who might have HR experience that are already working for us?
And or is there somebody who's part-time currently? Might they
Oh, I see, yes.
move to add this component if they're qualified, obviously?
Right.
Well, that's a great thought.
There was somebody, but I can't, I'm mixing up her name with somebody else right now. She was with Tanya in the front office and thank you.
Yep.
I could see her in my head. Can't come up tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, but that was, I think we talked about that a little bit when she was here, just momentarily, because then she wasn't here.
And she wasn't here. Yeah, she went full-time human resources.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Other thoughts?
interested in more information and continuing the conversation.
Did you want me to find what smaller school HR, like for instance, what does Mary Ellis do? I think
Yes,
with
I
Mary,
think that'd be
I think
helpful.
somebody,
Yeah.
thank you, Nicole, for pulling
Mhm.
that out. What do
What do they
human
do?
resource, particularly part-time human resource people do? What's their
And-
job description and
Right.
things like that?
And I foresee that, for instance, things that some human resources may do benefits negotiations with other companies, that's something you do particularly well. I don't think we would necessarily think they need to do that part, right? So knowing what types of things are there, and then we would come up with what would be the best set
Yep,
of those
yep.
pieces to
Put
fulfill
some things together.
the number of hours we're looking to.
Exactly, because then
Yeah.
you would be able to build, you have to build the job description, which ultimately equals the FTE. Sure.
Other questions or thoughts? So we keep this on the.
I will hopefully bring it in November.
Yeah.
I'll have some information for everybody. And it can, as I'm gathering it, I'll kind of share it with you guys. So it's not all brand new on a Thursday, but we'll kick that out to you too. So, okay.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone.
Now, Rebecca, I do want to follow up with you on one piece. You started off by saying we should be the best place to work and things like that, which is always our goal. Would you like us, a few years ago, pre-COVID, we did enter into the best places to work, Journal Sentinel
Yep.
at the time and things like that. We certainly can pursue that too as well, if that's something that the will of the board, obviously there's a cost to it.
I want to know if it's time intensive, and I don't know what resources you need to devote to do that.
It's pretty much a survey. It's a survey, how your staff feels. Obviously, they have a set of questions. It is then benchmarked against similar organizations, say, school districts with employees of, 30 to 60 or whatever it is. So you are benchmarked, and then ultimately some metric is kicked out, and then you get the badge
Mhm.
From that standpoint too. So it costs money to do that. If that's something we want to pivot to, obviously our school perception survey is very similar to that. It's not accredited with badging or an accreditation. If we felt strongly we could, move that way too, instead of the school perceptions. We've been doing school perceptions now for 4 years, I do believe.
Mhm.
But that could be something, I don't know if we need to double up on it, but it's something similar, but you do get an accreditation with it. I just wanted to bring
Could you
that.
just let us know what it does cost?
Sure.
Because it is,
I'll
at
just
least
talk
from
to
what I
some
hear
of the
from
other
the school
schools.
districts, it's a nice recruiting piece. because
Do
they
other
show up.
schools in this area participate in that as well?
I know Richmond does. I just know Richmond does. So it's an easy phone call to Jeannie to say, hey, what's the process? And we did it a few years ago and it's been a while. So we went to school perceptions.
I know as far as county school districts, Muskego
Yeah, Muskego's
district
one of
is
them. Yep.
one that they tout themselves as per that metric that they're
Sure.
one of the best.
Okay. Should be pretty easy on a Google search.
I have
So
some former
yeah, we'll
students who
take it.
worked there, and that was recruiting for them. That's one of the reasons that it got their attention to go and apply there. Yeah.
I do like school perceptions too, coming up year 4.
Yep.
That we finally have the benchmarks where we can see areas of improvement and whatnot, so.
So, okay. Thanks. I'll bring some information. Thank you. I
Thank
just want
you.
to circle back up with
Okay.
that sparked an interest. So.
All right, future meeting and agenda items.
All right, so next November is coming up quick. It's November 17th because of the Thanksgiving holiday. We do have no school that whole week, so November 17th. Couple things. One is the board asked if that's still something you would like me to do is a consolidation financial review with the revenue limits. Now that ours is approved, ultimately everybody else has to approve theirs. I will be reaching out and communicating and bringing business managers together who are interested. We do have a meeting set, and it seemed like there was some interest. So
It
we're
looked
gonna.
like everybody but North Lake, was that?
Everybody was invited, and I do believe everybody but North Lake potentially is going to be coming. So, because I know I heard from one business manager today who said, "Is there still room for me? I'm just interested." And my board thinks just to see what it's like.
And I want to be very clear, we're making no decisions here. We are gathering information so we can
Yep.
make informed decisions in the future.
Correct. That's it. So that'll be coming. We're going to bring back the library. So we'll have a discussion about the library that will be on the new business, bringing that back. We're going to talk about the HR position is what I heard, keeping that alive with some information that you're requesting. The other piece per board policy is a board self-review.
Yes.
Okay, so in board policy, there's supposed to be a special meeting that is assigned just to board self-review. I will kick the self-review questions to the board later this week, so you guys have that. In the past, you just kind of filled it out. There was a discussion. However, you guys want to facilitate that. It is a meeting of the 5 of you. And I'm just there to help facilitate if there's any questions at all from that standpoint.
We've done that separately than the board meeting before, or did we do it before?
We
the
did
board meeting?
it, there was one, we did it before.
Yes.
I know, Maria, we are looking at a student achievement committee meeting in November too, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Could we do that, reschedule that one if Patrick and I can find a different time so that we could do this time
Yeah.
for the board? Because that's just 2 of us to reschedule.
What are
instead
you
of 5.
thinking about for a time frame on that?
Other options, and especially the district work card and school wants to, what they are, we could just add it to the board meeting.
We could, yeah,
Oh,
we could just do that.
Are you comfortable with that? Okay.
That way we can highlight it to our entire community,
was-
the full board.
More people will see
do
it.
that.
I think.
Yep. So we will just, instead of that student achievement, we'll move that agenda item, which will be report card release.
Does that work for everyone? Because that's prior to this meeting.
That's fine.
Works for me.
Time,
5 o'clock. Does that work?
we're awesome. Make it work. I can put her on the calendar if I know it now.
Thank you, John.
Under C, can you change it to 2026?
You don't have a time machine?
Thank you.
Like 20. Got it.
I know it's
You
a
got
good
it.
year, but
It's a heck of a year. We're gonna be closing it out pretty soon. Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
So 5 o'clock, self-review on the 17th.
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you need an hour? I'm just gonna throw it out there. Do you want an hour?
half hour.
I think we're probably good with a half an hour.
Yeah.
We did 45 minutes the
Last-
first time, but we were new to doing it.
I think in the past, I think it's been about a half hour meeting.
I'm gonna start at 5:20, so we have 10 minutes too.
Or we can go 5:15 and it's easy. I don't care.
5:15. If we end early, then we have a break before 6 o'clock start time.
Okay,
Sounds good.
got it. Sounds good.
Any break?
John, 5:15.
5:15. We'll put it on. We'll post it.
Any other items for the November meeting? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Aye, opposed. Hey, let's get to a choir concert. Okay.
All right.